everyone, and welcome to this Intendido Conversation series where we dive deep into the human side of performance. Today's session is titled The Founder's Blind Spot People, and we are thrilled to have someone who has spent decades understanding just that people. Our guest is Mr. Maanveer Singh, a behavioral strategist and master trainer in psychometric profiling with 23 years in training and development and over a decade leading extended disc in India. He brings a rare blend of science, wisdom, and lived experience. Manveer, thank you for joining us. We are looking forward to unpacking what really happens behind team dynamics and how tools like extended disc can help founders lead with more clarity and less chaos. Let's start with the basic and build up. For those who are unfamiliar, how would you describe extended disc in a sentence or two?
I think your volume has gone down a little bit. How would I describe extended disc in a statement or two? It's almost like saying I was watching a podcast on this wonder spray called WD-40, and WD-40 really doesn't say anything about their product. They say it's a multi-purpose product. And they let the customers decide what the product means to them. Now, I can do almost the same thing with extended disc behavioral analysis. Now, at this point of time, let's look at two elements. One is extended disc behavioral analysis, and the other is extended disc, the brand name. Okay, the brand name, under the brand name, you have many other products. But if you're talking about behavioral analysis right now, the behavioral analysis is a tool that helps a person to not only understand themselves and their behavior, but also helps people to understand who the person is, whom they're dealing with, whom they're hiring, whom they're training, whom they're recruiting, whom they're developing. So the tool gives you insights which are much deeper than a person would get by simply introspecting. It's like saying, what is the difference between looking in a mirror and taking an X-ray? A mirror gives you a reflection of who you are, an X-ray gives you insights.
Thank you so much. That's a great insight. Now, why do you think understanding behavioral styles is important, especially for young businesses or startups?
As I said, your volume is again very low, but I'm trying to grasp your question.
Okay, so let's start with adjusting my volume. So now that it's up again, I'll say my question. Why do you think understanding behavioral styles is important, especially for young businesses or startups?
Understanding behavioral styles is important for everybody. We see not only for young businesses and startups, but it's important for everybody. If you take a young business or a startup, what does a young business or a startup have? It has energy, it has enthusiasm. They probably got funding, or probably they have little funding, and the whole game is to try and get valuation, and then they can sell it off. Whatever the young business has in terms of rawness, the behavioral style analysis helps people to get a little bit more insights into who they're working with. You know, what happens in a startup is that you have a group of youngsters who generally know each other or generally work with each other somewhere, and they get together and they come up with an idea. And while the idea is good and the idea may be workable or may not be workable, that only time will tell. It's only when they understand the nuances of who is good at what and whose style can be leveraged for what part in the startup will they find that they are not wasting their time duplicating efforts, they're not wasting their time overlapping each other, and they're not wasting their time correcting and finding faults and then trying to redo. These are very expensive mistakes in a startup. They're very, very expensive things to do. So if you're in a startup in a situation and you have a lean team, let's say 2, 3, or 4 people, and you've got the behavioral style inventory and analysis, and you know whose core strength is what in terms of natural behavioral style, you leverage that with the person's expertise and experience, and then you can assign that part of the task to that person and then leave it alone. So that's where these assessments help a lot.
That's true. That's true. There are quite a few psychometric tools out there. How is extended disc different in its approach or application?
Well, I can give you the answer from two perspectives. I can give you an answer from a sales perspective, and I can give you an answer from a technical perspective. Since I am a born and brought up salesperson, so let me give you the salesperson's answer first, and then I'll give you the technical answer or the perspective. I remember many years back, I was selling computers and I was with a client, and the client tells me, he says that, okay, your system that you're offering has these features, and the competitor has these features. You're offering this operating system, they're offering this operating system. You're offering this, they're offering that. It's almost similar. Why should I buy from you? I said, because they don't have me. So if you want that kind of personalized service, and you want that input, and you want those insights, then come to Exceldisk India. Now that's the sales kind of answer. Now let me give you the technical or the more viable answer that would appeal to the people who are, no, I want detailed information. Okay, here it is. There are a lot of assessment instruments, like you rightly said, many of them, many of them. And trust me, these last 15 years, I've had the opportunity to work with leading companies and some stupid mistakes that they have made as far as assessment instruments are concerned. Very, very stupid mistakes. And they have paid heavily for it. And then they've come back to us. Exceldisk is, number one, the only instrument in the world which publishes its validation report and studies every 2 years. It's a highly validated instrument. So there are no gimmicks in the instrument. It's very well tested. It has got very high reliability scores. If you want technical data on things like Cronbach's alpha and so on and so forth, we've got very, very high consistency and reliability scores across genders, regions, languages, ages, cultures, so on and so forth. And you can think of a parameter and we stand the test of time. Not now, but for the last so many years. Okay. Exceldisk is the only instrument in the world which does not publish a report if the person does not answer consistently. So if you take any other instrument, however the person answers, a report will be published. We are the only ones who correct that. We are the only ones who find a check and say, no, there has been no pattern, there has been no consistency, there has been no logic, there has been no sensibility in the answering. There is something wrong. So we capture that and say, no report. We call it an invalid result. Maybe there is something going on in the background of the person or whatever, and the person is not taking this seriously. We capture that. Now, wouldn't you want an assessment instrument when you're paying a good price? Wouldn't you want an assessment instrument that you can trust, that you can rely on, that is validated, that gives you valid results, and whose results need a well-educated person to interpret? If you just get a report which anybody can read through from a 7th grade upwards, then that's really not got too much of statistical backing to it. There's not got too much of meat to it. But our instruments, you've been through the validate, you've been through the certification program yourself. You've seen how it opens up from a very, very basic interpretation of disk to a very, very complex, I would say a buffet of a variety of so many things that you can choose from. So yes, we are, I think, among the finest instruments in the world, and we are very proud of that.
True. I indeed. But I have just have one more question. So when you say that there is no report created, then what happens? Do the person can take the test again, like the very next day, or does it take time?
Okay. Number one, it's not a test, it's an assessment. So the moment we use the word test, we put people in a different frame of mind. That test means you pass, you fail, there are high scores, low scores, there are right answers, wrong answers. It's not a test, it's an assessment. Yes, we do recommend people take the assessment again, but after a period of time, let's say about 2-3 weeks, simply because there is a subconscious pattern that has been created from the first attempt that they made to answer. And if you give them the assessment again immediately, unknowingly, they will resort to that pattern and try and replicate the answers that they gave the first time. And possibly you may not get a very good, clean, consistent report even the second time. So that's why we suggest we wait for about 2-3 weeks and then administer the assessment again. And God forbid, if you have a similar issue, then you need to wait at least 2-3 months to re-administer.
Thank you so much for correcting me. It's assessment.
It's
You see, our brain is so wired for word test that it comes out like a test.
There is a reasoning for that, but unless you ask me the question, I will not tell you the answer. So I'm going to leave it over there.
Thank you for the hint, though. Okay, so coming back to startups, startups often move fast and with a very little structure. How can extended disk help founders manage that speed without becoming micromanagers?
That's exactly what I said right in the beginning. When I think I answered that question also. A startup is generally a very lean team of people who get together with a lot of passion, enthusiasm, energy, and a bright idea or an idea or whatever, some funding. And when they have assessments that help them to identify each other's strengths, then they can leverage those strengths for potential roles within that organization so there is no overlap. There is no correction going back and forth. There is no stepping on each other's toes. And you don't want those friendships turning sour over a period of time because there is all this that is happening. So you want the friendship in one place, you want the association in one place, you want the business relationship to be in one place, and to keep that intact, it's a very good idea. And I'm telling you, if you're looking at a startup from only a business perspective, a relationship is a startup, a marriage is a startup. All right. Uh, Getting together for a long-term hire, that's a startup. You don't limit the definition of a startup to something that people do in today's terminology as what is a group of tech guys or whiz guys or something getting together with some money and doing something new. That's really that's a startup, yes, but so many other things are startups.
Indeed, true. Even when I think of startup, I just see some tech guys coming in together and creating a business.
Yeah, I mean, I've done in the early days. I've done so much of work with couples who are newly married or wanting to get married. I don't do that anymore because time doesn't allow me. But that's a startup.
True. Okay, so now you have you worked with any startup teams where this made a visible shift in the way they collaborated and made decisions?
Major, majorly. One of the things that comes to mind immediately, and unless you ask me, I won't tell you. But I wait for your question.
Yeah, but ask, like I said, any teams. So I'm asking specifically that what happened in that team and where was that shift happened?
I'll tell you. This is a very reputed legal firm in Mumbai. Obviously, I can't take names for reasons best known to all of us. Um, and they approached us with a lot of skepticism. They were a bright group of legal professionals who had gotten together to specialize in corporate law, company law. And one of the things that happened is that they had three directors, key directors at the board level. And they were the ones who were responsible for recruiting, getting in talent from across the fraternity, empowering that talent, and then putting them on their panel as associates, and then junior partners, and then senior partners, and so on and so forth. Now, what was happening was that every time we were giving an assessment to a person through them, there was some reason that they were finding not to recruit that person. And I was wondering, I said, I mean, I have no problem because they were kept spending money to buy assessments from that point of view, it's okay for me. But I'm asking myself a question that if they really come to me for support, for help, for some to solve a problem or a key issue in their organization, why is it that after 5, 10, 15 assessments, they're not able to find people? What is going on? So I dug a little deeper into the what was happening, and I asked the board, the three of them, to take an assessment themselves. And first, they were, of course, very reluctant, but then they did it. And then I gave them my insights. And then I told them, I said, for the next person that you're going to hire, can you individually tell me what are your expectations of the person you're going to hire? And I gave them a set of competencies and I asked them to score those. Two of the directors were aligned. One was not aligned at all. And that's what was creating the problem, because that director had a veto right. So every time something came up, these two were agreeing and he was rejecting, or he was agreeing and these two were rejecting. So first we had to get these people aligned. That board, we had to get them aligned into a thinking, and that came from a vision statement. We actually helped them to write a vision statement for the organization, and that helped them to create their focus on that vision statement, and then everything has followed through from there.
So here it makes me think that before hiring, do founders need to take their own risk assessment and then go for hiring?
Well, they don't need to take their own assessment necessarily, because sometimes it may not be possible, but they at least need to be clear about what they're hiring or what they're wanting. Disk is not a tool, or extended disk is not a tool that can give you a Superman who can do everything for you from the day one. It's a tool to help you understand what you're hiring. I remember this very famous line from one of these senior European business tycoons. And somebody asked him, they said, we're spending so much money on training our people. What if we train them and they leave? And his reply was, what if we don't train them and they stay? So when you get disk, when you use extended disk, you know what you're getting. You don't hire for the biodata, for the resume. You don't hire for skills. And 3 months down the line, say, oh my God, what have we got on our plate? And then you want to fire for attitude. If you had only spent a little bit of time and money in the initial stage, you would have got a package deal of information in terms of both who the person is, what are his natural strengths and behaviors, what are his reactions to pressure situations, what are his stress points, so on and so forth. And you would have validated that with his experience. Remember, extended disk or any other disk instrument or any other instrument for that matter should not be used as the sole criteria for hiring or rejecting. It should always support a hiring or rejection decision.
Understood. It's very interesting to see how slowing down to understand people can actually create a long-term impact.
Oh, yeah.
Now,
If America had done that, we wouldn't be in this situation. You can knock that off this. Correctly.
true. So now, how do you respond to founders who say, I trust my gut and I don't need a framework to understand people?
Okay, now again, I'm going to answer that from two perspectives. One is from a perspective of nutrition that I'm very passionate about. I'm a certified nutritionist also. And second is from a psychometric analysis perspective. We know that the gut is the second brain, all right? We know that there are a lot of workshops for mental wellness. We know that a lot of probiotics and postbiotics that have come in for gut health. So if you say that you trust your gut, boss, your gut is not doing what it was doing 20 years back. Your gut is in big trouble anyway. So that's why all your lifestyle diseases and everything else all originate from the gut. And if you trust your gut, please, you're in big trouble. So please avoid trusting your gut. If you are one of those old school kind of thought people who say I trust my gut, I would respect a person who says that I don't want to use external disk, but I want to use something else because I'm more comfortable with that tool. At least it tells me that this person is done his BA, MBA, and all that, and he's not as illiterate as somebody else from the past. But if somebody who's from a new school of thought, and who claims to be from modern institutes and having spent lakhs and lakhs of rupees, and he turns around and says, I trust my gut, I feel sorry. I honestly, I don't have a discussion. I don't want to have a discussion. If it's a competing discussion, should I use this tool or that tool? I'm happy to sit in the trenches, fight it out, get knocked on the chin, take a few punches, come out either victorious or loser. I'm okay with that. But if somebody says I trust my gut, then please go and trust your gut. That's perfectly all right. What can I do to you? What can I say to you? I mean, I'm not going to raise you from your gut to your head in half an hour. That's for sure.
True, that's true. But then there's a often fear that using psychometric tool boxes people into categories. So how can extended disk be used ethically and flexibly without creating that fear that they are being boxed?
Don't use tools that box people into categories. Use tools like extended disk, which don't box people into categories. Extended disk is a style instrument. It's not a type instrument. There's a difference between type instruments and style instruments. I'm not going to get into that discussion because it may not seem ethical, but yes, there are some instruments which kind of typify you. And there are some instruments which kind of give you a fluidity in behavioral styles, like extended disk instrument does. It tells you you're a combination of 2 or 3 styles. It does not negate or say that the other styles are absent or missing. It only tells you what are your preferences and also tells you what are your lesser preferences. So it's a combination. It's a style theory. It's a fluid theory. It's not a type theory. So my suggestion would be and also use the instrument as an indication. It's as a direction. It's like saying that when you're going from one place to another, you use Google Maps. You don't get stuck on the map. If you see something happening on the road and your road sense tells you that you need to take a detour, take the detour. The map may not be updated, right, for some time. So use it as a guiding, use it as a guideline. Don't get stuck with it, don't get arrested by it.
Thank you for that. And yes, style. This uses behavioral styles and not type. Thank you for that. So, in your experience, what does self-awareness play in shaping strong leadership within startup culture? And does extended disk help in being more self-aware?
Again, why only startups? Everywhere, they see there is a need for self-awareness everywhere, even in very well-established companies. Self-awareness, the moment sometimes people have these awareness aha moments when they see the assessment and they get the results and they get the analysis and they get the feedback from trained assessors like me or you or anybody else who debrief them. They find it very humbling. They find it extremely humbling, because then they realize that yeah, हम इतने तोपमार खान नहीं है जितना हम अपने आप को सोचते थे. We are not that much of a this thing, but there are things that we need to work on, and it happens. It's perfectly all right. And as I said, not only limited to startups, everywhere, because there are huge corporations. I work with extremely large corporations and directors from the US, and they're sitting down and we're having a chat on Zoom, and we're talking, and they're asking me such elementary things about life. And I'm saying that this guy is handling turnovers of billions and this and that and everything. And this is what he's asking me, like, what should I do when I come home at 5 o'clock in the evening? Should I do this or should I do that? And I'm saying that, and it's all come from a feeling of comfort that they have developed because we have spoken to them about who they are as people. We've connected with them at very, very basic human level. We have understood what their fears and apprehensions are through the instrument. We have not let them feel bad about it. We have made them feel secure about they are as much of a person as much as they are a professional. And it's okay to be wrong sometimes. It's okay not to be successful all the time. It's okay to have these failings and these shortcomings. It's perfectly okay. But this is what you need to do to pull it up. All right. So it's as I said, it's not only startups. It's startup is one thing, but at the other end of the spectrum, you have extremely large organizations also. The fears of people are the same, whether it's a startup or whether it's a big up or anything of the sort. The fears of people are people everywhere.
It's true. Peers are same, and having safe environment is very important to open up. That's true.
Extremely.
Okay, so let's switch gears and come to something quick.
Okay,
A book, tool, or podcast you recommend to founders trying to understand people better?
a book, tool, or podcast. Many. Marshall Goldsmith's "What Got You Here Won't Get You There." Personality Plus by Florence Latour. The Inner Game of Tennis. So many. So many.
Thank you. Now, this is my favorite question. Your favorite aha movement from the extended disc session that still gives you goosebumps?
I think I spoke about this with you at the certification, and if you'd like me to, at the cost of repeating myself, say it again, I'd say it. As I told you, this happened in Calcutta when we were doing a certification program, and it's my favorite one. That's why I'm narrating it. There have been many moments, but this is the favorite one. And this happened on the. We had a 2-day certification program. It was being conducted jointly between Extended Disk India and Confederation of Indian Industry in Calcutta. So we were at their premises in Salt Lake, and we were conducting this program, and they had promoted it among their member organizations. So we had a fairly good attendance of almost 20-25 people. And on the first evening, there was this young professional lady who comes up to me and says that she would be late the next morning. And it was nice and decent of her to tell me, because normally people are not, you're not obliged to tell me. I'm not a school teacher. They're not obliged to tell me they can come in late. It's their company has sponsored them. It's perfectly okay. Out of curiosity, I asked her, I told her, I said that if you're late by about half an hour, it's perfectly all right because we'll be doing a recap. But if you get later beyond that, then the content for day two will start, and I will not be able to, help you cover up that missed content after the program because I have a flight back to Bombay. So I have to rush from here to the airport and so try and be on time or at least, within that half an hour. She said, yes, yes. And then again, out of curiosity, I asked, I said, is everything okay? And that's when she told me that she was planning to take her child, who was barely 8, 9 months old, to the doctor for a checkup. And my style being a little, in the disc terminology, being a little SC, caring, compassionate, empathy, that kind of thing. And also the role of a facilitator. I generally reached out and I said that, what's wrong with the baby? Is everything okay? She said, yeah, he's just about 8, 9 months old. I said, that's surprising. And what's the matter with an 8, 9 month old baby? Then told me the story. She said that ever since he's been born, he's not slept well. He's hardly fed well. He's very restless. So we've had checkups, medical tests, blood tests, x-rays, this, that, everything. And I was surprised. I said, I mean, come on, medicine has progressed. Uh, you don't take 8, 9 months to come to a diagnosis for a newborn baby. There can't be so many things wrong, for sure. Um, so I very casually I asked her. I said, can you just bring me a report? And I don't know why I said it. I have absolutely no idea why I said it. So she brought me her behavioral style analysis report. I sent this behavioral style analysis report, and I opened it to the pages of the profiles and the graphs. And as I keep telling people, profiles tell stories, and you don't have to tell people what you see. Just like a doctor doesn't have to tell you what he sees when he sees your blood work, but he asks you some relevant questions. So I looked at her profiles and I put it down and I asked her and I told her, I said, I'm going to suggest something to you. Would you do it when you go back home today? And she said, yeah, sure. Why do you say so? I said, will you listen to me? Do you trust me? She said, yeah, of course. So I gave her a few suggestions. And I told her, I said, when you go home today in the evening, the crux was when you go home today in the evening today, leave everything out of your mind, everything that is going on in your life, just leave it out of your mind completely. And just spend that next 1.5 hours between the time you reach home until dinner time, just you and your baby, just focus completely. Nothing else in the world exists. There are only two people in the world, you and your child, that's all. And just give that child that attention and that connect, that's all. You won't believe it, she was not late the next morning. She was early. She brought me some lovely rasgulla and stuffed kalakands from Calcutta. She was in tears when she came to meet me. She said, I don't know why you said what you said. I don't know what you saw in my profiles. I hope to be able to learn some of that today. But he slept like he's never slept. He fed like he's never fed. He rested like he's never rested. I slept like I've never slept in the last 9 months. And then she told me all that was going on in her background. And she documented all that in an email and sent it to me. And I sent it to our global CEO, Yuka Sapinen. When he came to Bombay, she came from Calcutta to meet him. And when he wrote his book, he said that when I designed this instrument way back in 91 to 94, and I launched it, I had no idea that a child's life in Calcutta would be changed forever. And it's in print. It's in a book, in his book. All right. He's written the foreword to a book on coaching. And this is his words. He said, when I designed this instrument, I did not know that I would touch a child's life in Calcutta and it would be changed forever. But that's an aha moment. That's something that's really significant because you don't associate money with these kind of things. You don't associate commerce with these kind of things. You don't associate income with these kind of things. These are just things that you take with you when you leave.
Yeah, being a new mother myself, I get goosebumps whenever I listen. It's the second time I'm listening and I'm still getting goosebumps. So yeah, it's true. It's the same, like being self-aware about you and about your surrounding and what's happening with you and accepting. Sometimes we don't accept what's happening with us, but when we see an assessment in front of us, we do take it seriously that yes, there is something we need to look upon. Now, you have
People don't
worked,
take it seriously even after that.
sorry, repeat it
Sometimes
again.
people don't take it seriously even after that.
Yeah, that's true, but at help them to be serious. Now,
Yes.
you have worked with so many teams over the years. What stood out when you interacted with Intendido team?
What stood out when I worked with Intentito team, I think one of the things that I like most is the ethic of the founders. And then, of course, it seems to translate well into the structure of the team. Very passionate, very committed, very dedicated, and very ethical. I think that's what I like most. It's a team that does what it says it'll do. It does what it says it will do when. And I like that kind of, and I think the approach that the team has in terms of delivering quality work, not only assessments, but assessment based solutions to clients, is something that I am very happy to partner with, something very happy to work with, and something that I'd like to support in the future for sure.
Thank you. And it was a pleasure getting trained under you. Now, my final question is, if a founder is listening and is still on the fence about thinking that they should invest on extended risk or not, what would you say to them?
Get off the fence, get on the grass. Okay. There is nothing on the fence. The fence is a very notional. If you're having any doubts about whether you should do it or you shouldn't do it, don't do it. All right. I'll tell you why. Because doubt is not going to get answered by doing the assessment. But by doing the assessments, many doubts will go away. Right. So don't be if you are a founder or you're a CEO or you're a team lead or you're anything of the sort, and you've invested so much time and so much money to come to a point. It's like saying in Mumbai we have local trains, and the train you have second class, you have first class, and you have the AC locals. Now, if I have to go from Borivali to Churchgate in a first class, in a second class, I think the fare is 20 rupees, and I can still reach Churchgate. If I take a first class, the fare is I think about 70 rupees, and I'll still reach Churchgate. But if I want to arrive in style and look good for my meeting, then I spend 90 rupees, which is 20 rupees more, which is just marginal. I'm going to spend 70 to reach Churchgate anyway. But if I just top it up a little bit, then I can arrive in good shape, feel good, look good, present myself well, and I know that I'm on the edge when I do that kind of thing. So if a founder is not willing to make that decision, he can reach in 10 rupees where he wants to go. He can follow his gut. That's a 10 rupee approach. 70 rupee approach would be to ask people what to do and then do that. And the 90 rupee approach is to use extended risk.
This says why are you are the master trainer for Extended Risk India. You know what to say, when to say, and how to say to make it exactly impactful. So, Maanveer, thank you. What really stands out is how deeply a human approach is. You have shown us that behavior isn't something to fix, it's something to understand, especially in startups where culture is still forming. Having this kind of lens can be the difference between burnout and the breakthrough. So thank you everyone for listening. Remember, people are not the soft side of the business. People are the business. Thank you again, Manveer. We loved you having with us here. Thank you so much.
Pleasure. Thank you so much, Tracy. Thank you for having me.